Okay, let me ask you.
Project Concordia actually, in large part, exists to listen. One of the things we do is run a series of workshops. We're actually going to have a workshop at Burton Catalyst in July on the subject of Enterprise 2.0 identity concerns. And the idea is to ask users and deployers to tell us what their concerns are and what their problems today are. So in a lot of ways, Concordia is there to codify the current problem space and then start to figure out roughly what the solution space might look like. And so in a lot of ways, being there to listen, well, we have discovered that there is, what did somebody call recently, terminology silos. There's definitely that problem where everybody uses a different name for everything. And we haven't decided if we really want to wade into that. There have been many efforts to do glossaries and such. But, so we have people tell us the way they see the problem. And that sort of takes care of the problem of having to explain to them.
Yep.
We don't have to tell them their business.
So you create essentially an anthology and an overview of the problem set.
Exactly.
Okay, Trent?
Well, I mean, to follow on kind of what Eve was talking about is, there's a lot of listening that needs to go on, and I think that one of the interesting things we talked about earlier today with the new Kantara initiative is providing an area where all of the stakeholders for the dialogue can be in the same room at the same time, have the same methodology for communicating, whether that means that everyone's going to agree to the terms or not. I mean, that's up for debate. Everyone comes to the table with their own baggage, but it seems to me, from the two hats that I really wear, the DataPortabily project and the Internet Society, it's very much the end user as they're engaging with the system, taking a look at what their use cases are and how the use cases that we've been working on from a technology standpoint, how can we map those into the nomenclature that is understandable from the consumer's standpoint. And then honestly, when do you need to hide some of it? I mean, because you don't need to tell the user all the time what they're doing. If I go and get my car worked on, last thing I want is the guy changing my oil to explain to me how to do it. I mean, frankly, I don't want to know. Thanks. That's why I'm paying you. And it's the same is true about the technology that we're deploying here. We think it's cool and sexy, and we really want to talk about it. But at the end of the day, it's the success of the engagement that we need to measure ourselves by.
Mm-hmm. Roger?
Yeah, I'd like to underscore a comment that's been, I think, implied, but maybe not called out explicitly, and that is, this isn't about a bunch of technology guys sitting around a table saying, ooh, that would be cool. It's about actually having people who are going to deploy this technology tell technologists in a common forum that this is how you have to do it. If you do it this way, I will acquire and deploy your technology. If you don't do it this way, I'm not going to, right? I mean, to echo Trent's point, we don't know all of the security protocols that are in place when we go to a Bank of America ATM to ensure it's really us, right? We don't know how, a banking institution or a financial institution protects that transaction. To Trent's point, we don't need to know. We just know that it's secure. Until both the vendor community and the deploying community are both singing out of the same book, saying this is the way it can be done and should be done, and that process is replicated 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times, and people get used to it. It's just like presenting your driver's license when you pick up a rental car. It's part of the deal. It's part of the way that the rental car company assures that it's really you driving off the lot with a $20,000 investment. So it's the combination of both constituencies coming together and say, you need to build it this way, and if you do, then I will deploy it. So it's key that end user deployers and the community members who are very active in developing and deploying these technologies, the social technologies, all come together and have that conversation in a common forum. It's in all of our interest to do that.
Okay, Brad?
Yeah, I guess I'd echo everything that's been said thus far, and for the OpenID Foundation in particular, we've tried to make that process more systematic. So starting in the fall of last year, we had a content provider advisory committee that met in New York City that was co-hosted by the BBC, And we got about 15 media companies to get together and tell us what they wanted and what they needed. And we got a lot of good feedback that went directly to the major OpenID providers for them to start offering products and services and user interfaces that were consistent with what they needed. So for example, more than authentication, being able to get an email address. What kind of profile information should come in simple registration or attribute exchange? With the onset of OAuth, when and how can we use OAuth? So good feedback there back in the fall. Then just a week ago, we did a similar event with online retailers to understand what online retailers might want and need from OpenID and related technologies. And we kind of characterized that feedback and presented that to the OpenID Foundation member companies. In addition, we've had, as it has been expressed before, user interface is a known area for improvement. And so a lot of work has been done by the major OpenID providers who have shared that experience. People from Google and Yahoo and Facebook and MySpace and AOL and Microsoft all sharing their own experiences with user identity management as it relates to the consumer. And then having specific forums where those organizations can come together. So Yahoo started right after the Content Provider Advisory Committee. We had a full-day session at Yahoo on user interface design. And then we followed up just a couple months ago where Facebook also hosted a follow-on session on user interface design. We've created working groups and extensions all focused on user interface improvement. So I agree with what everyone else has been saying. We really need to be more market-focused and not technology-focused. We need to listen to end users. We need to listen to deployers. And to the extent required, hide or wrap up the technology in something that's more intuitive to website operators and end users.
Eric?
In the case of OAuth, we probably are a slightly different situation where we're mostly fighting a admittedly losing battle of trying to train users, not that OAuth exists specifically, but train them, don't enter your email address and password on another website, the standard phishing problem. But, with social networks popularity these days, most users do. They're willing to go to Facebook and enter their Yahoo or Gmail or Microsoft credentials to scrape their address book. And we've been in an interesting position of talking to these social networks and trying to find out what do we need to do, what do we need to give them so that they're willing to stop asking users for those credentials, switch to something like OAuth. And to be honest, they've set some pretty high bars with us in terms of usability and having the same types of conversion rates. And so we're working with them to make sure we get to a point where we can provide as good a conversion rate as they have today. And we're close, but not quite there yet. But that's another area where the bar is high.
Paul?